And let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This will be, let me see here. This will be number 25. And to be honest, I guess I'll just say it up front. The whole day I've been feeling pretty moody. And I can acknowledge that. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think it's a culmination of things. But I will say one of the first things that comes to mind is I think I'm pretty fatigued, especially in the classroom. So for my school, I think I mentioned in the previous one, but we have 3 more weeks, and I don't know what it is. Well, I kind of have a sense of it, but I think I've pretty much lost a lot of my patience, if not all of it. And I really don't have any more patience at all. And it's tough because for me, usually when that happens, it's a noticeable moodiness that I just feel that kind of just takes over. And it influences my interactions or lack thereof. I already try to keep to myself for the most part, but recently, today, for example, right, I was feeling it pretty most of the day, and I just want to avoid people even more. I'm not as spirited in my interactions, or not as jolly, let's say. It's not that I'm faking it at other times, but I'm usually a pretty positive, calm, but good energy type of person. And then so when I'm feeling moody, it's just I really feel it. I try not to be an asshole, but I kind of shut down, and I don't talk as much, and don't offer, I just don't have a lot of enthusiasm, essentially. And I guess today I have a couple things that I jotted down. As usual, it's not very organized, but so be it. I think for me, the biggest thing is just getting this done. Even today, I felt myself getting lazy, and that's another thing that I've kind of been feeling a lot too. It's in addition to the fatigue, it's this laziness that I feel I don't want to do anything. For example, grading, right? I know that I had some things to grade, and just not wanting to get to it, or some other work-related stuff that I have to get done. I'm just trying to brush it off as much as possible. And I'm sure it's pretty natural to feel that way. But I guess for me, I try to avoid it as much as possible, if possible. So there's another thing that I've been kind of experiencing, is just feeling lackadaisical, feeling lazy, not very motivated to get things done, but still want to try to get things done nonetheless. And it's in the spirit of everything else. I might sneeze in a second, so I'm going to pause it. Alrighty, all good. Got the sneeze out, and we're back. I kind of forgot what I was saying, to be honest. Oh yeah, just really, the point that I was trying to make is I was trying to, avoid recording, but I want to stay as consistent as possible. And here's another thing too that is really interesting. There's nobody holding me to this. There's no one, it's not like I have thousands of listeners. And so there's, if I were to stop, I don't think it would have much of an impact. But for me, it's you've set a goal for yourself. So for me, I don't know if I've ever made this explicit on my recordings, but the goal is to get to 100, essentially, and just see, a lot of things that I treat in my life, the goal is just see my recent goals, at least. The goal is to see what I can do, see what I'm capable of, see what my limits are, my capacities are, And so I set a goal to do 100, and already I'm feeling like that. It's like you lose motivation. When you first start something out, you have a lot of energy, you got a lot of enthusiasm, but then you lose motivation, the doubt starts to creep in, the questions start to creep in, like, why are you doing this? What are you doing it for? All of that, right? And you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to building a business, or making a life change, or starting something new. It's up to you how far you want to take that, how committed you are going to be to something, right? Because how many people start something and then it falls off, right? Like, this is me. It's happened to me before, and I'm sure it's happened to many people, where, like, I made a website, I was putting my writing out on Substack, but that kind of fell off, and I still had a lot of ideas, but just the process, I kind of convinced myself out of that. I could have kept going, but I allowed myself to be convinced by myself that it's alright, you'll be okay if you don't do this. And we have to pick and choose our spots, right? You can't take everything on, and eventually you come to the realization, like, if you have a business that's you've been trying at it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and it's not going anywhere, then you kind of have to know when to put up the white flag, or call it. But then also on the flip side, it's like that meme where the guy is digging and he stops just before all the diamonds, and the other person that keeps going eventually gets to it, right? So, like many things in life, I'm trying to balance like two contrasting different perspectives. And like many other things in life, there's never any one answer. And so, again, the point being, I'm not feeling it today. Like, I can acknowledge that, I can be open and honest about that, but I still wanted to get this done. And I think it's good for me. It's good to voice my thoughts again, for myself. Excuse me. Throat is a little itchy. It's good for me to voice my thoughts. I think it will help. Although there's no other person with me, the act of getting these ideas out there is good for me. And it's a small nice thing about this and putting it out there is that whoever does listen, if you happen to make it this far, there might be something that you can take away, or there might be something that you can just relate to. And I think that's one of the more beautiful things about podcasts, is that it allows you to get pretty deep into someone's thinking, right? Who they are, and relate a little bit. Or just know that others out there are similar, or have thought similar things, and that you're not alone, essentially. So if you're listening, and if this is relatable, great. Holla at me, as I always say. But I know I already acknowledged that I'm in a moody mood. I am going to try to end it on a positive note. Again, I do have some things that I jotted down. I think I already mentioned this a little bit, but just want to acknowledge, because I thought it was kind of fun, but also interesting at the same time. So I've been getting a lot of teacher memes on Instagram recently, just because some of my coworkers will send me some, and then I've been, browsing a whole bunch of accounts, so they've been popping up recently. But I just want to say, like, how relatable all of them are from what I've experienced this year. All of them being really funny, just things like classroom management being like a stare down, accepting nothing less than full compliance, a teacher in a class that's going crazy. I'm going to pause it real quick. Okay, we're back. I'm sorry, I just had to clear the throat a little bit. There's like one where the teacher is completely dumbfounded, and the class is just going crazy, like it sounds like a circus, and a whole bunch of other ones. Just all things that, again, very relatable, very understandable, things that I've experienced. being so fatigued that you kind of just give up, right? It's like the energy is gone, the patience is gone at this point of the year. Comparing first year teachers versus like fifth year teachers, and I already feel like I've aged so much in this experience. The interesting part about it is that, but also kind of unfortunate, is that it is relatable. So that means a lot of the I don't want to say bad, but just the challenges of teaching, I think, cut across a lot of different, like, it's not unique to one area, one place. It seems to be that teachers everywhere are experiencing this similar thing. And again, I'm definitely not the first person to bring this up. Sorry, I'm sitting in the parking lot, there's people walking by, bumping music. Let me see, where is this? Hold on, I'm gonna pause it again. Alrighty, we're good to go again. There was someone walking on the street and bumping their music, and they just decided to post up by our parking lot, so I had to pause it for a quick second. Interesting thing there, which I'll probably get into a little bit, is just like these minor inconveniences, but I'll get into that in just a second. Just to finish up on the teacher meme stuff, I've been getting a lot of them recently. It's amazing, but also sad and unfortunate how relatable they are, because it seems like these accounts, you read the comments and you see and hear other people's experiences, and the fact that there are memes, indicates that it's other people are experiencing this too. And again, really something to think about. Something I think about a lot already. Something that I've thought about a lot even before doing this job is just the way our education is set up, and really just trying to ask, like, what are we doing here? How are we helping these kids? Just so much to say on that. I mean, to put it short, I don't feel like we're doing it right. It's one size fits all. It's not for everybody. The content, the curriculum is not relevant, applicable. So, behavior stuff, I don't know. I feel like a lot of that, like some of the kids are bad, but then also, again, like some of them are just, the way that we're trying to conduct school is just, it's, again, one size fits all. It's not for everybody. So that part is frustrating too. And somehow, some way, you still have to be able to manage a group of 25 kids. And that's another thing too, like, the teacher plays many roles and has very little support. I think there's the saying that it takes a village to raise someone, and I don't think that would be so common, so prevalent in our, just common knowledge if it wasn't true. But yet you got one person trying to take care and help 25 kids, all with, their own unique needs and capacities. So, the teacher memes have been cool and fun to watch. Again, sad and unfortunate that they exist, but I imagine this is the case with many other things. Nonetheless, for me personally, again, I am feeling pretty fatigued at this point. My patience is just obliterated. But I'm going to try my best. Well, I'm not going to try my best. I am going to just finish the year strong. I only got 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks? Yeah, 2 more. Well, no, like 2.5 more weeks. The finish line is in sight, and I think this usually is the hardest part of a race. Right? It's like just before the finish line when you're fatigued, but you got to continue to give it your all. what else can I say? So yeah, I think I'll get into this, what I was going to talk about when the person started playing music, but something I've been thinking a lot about is staying true to your principles. And so for me, I'm a big follower of Stoicism. And again, if you're not familiar, it's this philosophy on like how one can live their life essentially. And there's a whole bunch of tenets or principles within Stoicism that the Stoics advocate for. So the most basic one is not being too concerned with things that are outside of your control, controlling your interpretation of situations that happen, doing things in moderation, not getting too high, not getting too low. This is one especially that I've been thinking about a lot. And it's interesting because I've been feeling it a little bit more recently. So one thing that I'm pretty in tune, at least again, I try to be in tune with the happenings around the world, right? And it's a dilemma for me for sure, because on the one hand I want to stay informed, but on the other hand I also like really don't want to let what's happening in the world get me down or stop me from living my life or get too caught up in it, right? Because you could just go down so many rabbit holes, whether it's politics, economics, foreign policy, this or that, social issues, blah, blah, blah. There's so much, right? And any one of those things, let alone all of them together, can easily get you just bogged down in a cynical mindset. But then also at the same time, I find it important to be up to date and just informed, right? One is see what I can do to help. Two, just as a person in the world, like what do I need to understand so that my life is like I'm prepared. I don't want to get caught off guard by this news or that news or something developing over here. So to the extent possible, I try to stay informed. But then again, it's pretty easy, especially these days, it feels like, at least, to let it consume you. And what the Stoics would advocate for, again, is to not get too high, not get too low. Like, stay informed, but don't let it influence your life to that extent. And it's something that's been pretty hard, I'll be honest. Another thing is, last week the past two episodes, I've talked a little bit about my experience doing an adult league, playing in adult league basketball. Excuse me. And I would say the experience was not, like, it was definitely more on the competitive side. It was not recreational. Like, some of the adult leagues are pretty recreational, right? Like, people are still trying to win, but they're not going all out. They're not making crazy plays, blah, 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 or all out efforts to win. I think this one that I just experienced from my own observation and talking with my teammates and friends, it was a pretty competitive one. And it was the first time for many of us, first time for me doing something like that. And again, I mentioned in the previous pods that once I'm involved in something, I'm pretty committed, right? And I want to do it well. I want to give everything that I've got. And I was I was content with how I did. I think given everything, right, I think I'm pretty content with how I did. But our season did not end the way that we wanted to. Long story short, we had an opportunity in our last game to make the playoffs, and we ended up losing by 1, which is pretty unfortunate. And we were winning this game too. So we left the experience with a sour taste, feeling unsatisfied, which is okay, right? Because I try to remind myself that, again, you're just doing this to have fun with your friends. But the winner, the competitor in me is like, nah, bruh, get better. Figure out how you can get better, do things differently, and help win, right? And it seems like most of my teammates want to run it back, so we're probably going to run it back at least another time, right? At least 5 more games just to see what we can do. Go a little bit further. So that's another thing too, right? Like the past couple of days I've been thinking about it a lot, and it kind of like losing sucks, right? And it kind of gets you in a sad mood. But I'm trying to stay true to my stoic principles, let's say, of not getting too high, not getting too low. And it goes both ways, right? Like when bad things happen, you don't want to get too low because, they eventually will pass or you'll bounce back. But when things are going really well, see, even that, like there's two sides of that too. Like you don't want to get too high, right? But you also want to make the most of your success. Like you want to celebrate it. If you won or you did something worthwhile, celebrate it. And give yourself a pat on the back for your hard work, whatever you did. But I guess that's good enough, right? Like acknowledge that you've done something cool, that you've accomplished something, but don't let it consume you that way either, right? Like don't go and spend all your money or go party in Vegas, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's been tough. Like another one is even what I brought up earlier is just feeling moody, right? Like it's not who I want to be. It's not who I am. Like I still want to be a very chill person, right? I don't want how I'm feeling to negatively influence the way that I conduct myself, let's say. Like, yeah, I might be moody, but, I still can have positive social interactions. I can still put myself around people and just be, right? But it's tough. Even though I know it's like I shouldn't let it is tough. So I guess all that to say, sticking to your principles, at least to me, is something that I find really important. If you have them, right? But even if you have them, life is going to give you all types of twists and turns and curveballs that'll really test your principles. And so I guess for me, the takeaway message or the message that I want to share and all that is like, it's good to have principles, but once you have them, right, the next step is to be able to use those principles to withstand the turbulence that is life, right? Because I guess that's what they are there for, right? Like when things get hard, when things go crazy, when things are turbulent, the principles are there to keep you even keeled, not get too high, not get too low, not too much of this, not too much of that. Like it's just managed. Like, okay, it's windy, it's rocky, but I'm gonna still keep it pushing. And it's something I'm working on. I'm trying to tell myself that every day. Again, it's difficult, it's not easy, but I think it is important, right? Like essentially my principles have been tested a lot recently, which is good. I think they need to be tested. Things need to be there's a phrase for this, like stress tested, right? Like when you're building something, you want to stress test it to see what it's capable of holding, what damages can you handle, right? So that's something else that I've been thinking about quite a bit. And I was gonna connect it to something. Can I connect it? Yeah, it's okay. It's alright. Another thing that was on my mind, I guess I'll just talk about it a little bit since we're here. Might as well. I have a hard time answering the question, like, how are you? I don't know if I've brought this up before. Maybe a little bit, but I guess this time around I'll talk about it explicitly. But Yeah, the only reason this came to mind because this actually came up earlier, where Miss Williams, she stopped by my classroom during lunchtime just to check up, which I really appreciate. I really do, you know. And she asked me, "How are you?" And then I told her, because I've already told her before, but it's just a complicated question for me to answer. I'm an overthinker. I'm deep. I'm thoughtful. And so, if you want an honest answer from me, like, I could really go either way. So on the one hand, I'm barely holding it together, right? Like, I just have so many different things on my mind that it can feel a little bit overwhelming, honestly. And I don't know. Sometimes I don't put too much blame on myself. I just try to acknowledge that maybe this is just the way that I'm built, right? But then also, on the other hand, I acknowledge and recognize that I'm in a blessed position, right? Like, I'm grateful for a lot of things. Like, I'm grateful to have work. I'm grateful to have a working car. I'm grateful to have a home where my family can stay, and we have running water, and we have food, and we have electricity. I'm grateful that I'm able-bodied, right? I can run, I can jump, I can play basketball, I can exercise. I'm grateful that I can see and hear and feel, that I have friends that I trust and am pretty close to and can hit up and hang out with and do stuff with. I'm grateful that I have friends that check up on me, right? Like, I have a couple friends that will reach out occasionally, and for that I'm so grateful, because it doesn't really happen that often. So it's an interesting question, right? Because when somebody asks, "How are you?" I can say, "Yeah, I'm doing pretty good," or I can say, "I feel like I'm barely holding it together." And sometimes, I just don't know which way I want to respond, because if I say, "Yeah, I'm all good," I know, like, deep, it just feels like I'm lying to myself when I respond like that. Right, it's like, oh, there you go, just putting up the mask again so you can skate by this interaction, so you don't have to tell people how you're really feeling. And it even goes deeper than that too, right? Because it's like, okay, even if I acknowledge, like, all the things that are on my mind that are not, like, pleasant, let's say, it's not like I'm acknowledging those things to say that I am sad or that I am depressed, but I'm just acknowledging the fact that, yeah, these things kind of weigh heavy on me, and these are the things that are on my mind. But I'm still here. I'm still pushing. I'm still, grateful to be alive. Let's roll. Let's go. It's not, oh, here are all the things on my mind. I'm depressed. I can't do anything. I'm cynical, right? So it's a really interesting thing. And then also another aspect of it is, like, when people ask, "How are you?" it's another question that comes to mind is like, well, what do you want to hear? And most people would say, well, I'm open to whatever you want to tell me, which, fair enough, right? It's like, do you want to just hear good? Do you want to hear, like, how my classroom is doing? Do you want to hear how I'm doing personally? I could answer that question a million different ways, and I think it's tough for me, right? Oh, excuse me, just yawned. It's tough for me. But there was something funny that I wanted to bring up that it literally just slipped my mind. If it comes back up, I'll try to, dang, let me just think for just give me 10 seconds to think. No, give me 20 seconds to think. Nah, I can't come up with it. It is pretty funny though. It's alright. If it comes up, I'll bring it up. But if not, so be it. Another thing that I've been thinking about a lot is just this concept of being too nice. So I think it's a problem for me because obviously, well, yeah. Let's try to hash this out. So personally, I feel like I'm too nice of a person, right? Like, I'm pretty gentle with people for the most part. I'm a people pleaser for the most part. I try to avoid confrontation. If something needs to be said, then like I'm hesitant to say it, or I'm hesitant to be truly honest with people. And over time, I've acknowledged that there's just some times where you have to be assertive. And it's not even about being an asshole, but it's about being assertive, saying what you need to say, saying what somebody needs to hear, right? I believe all of that, but the execution has always been tough for me. I'm working on it, right? It's much like the idea of putting yourself out there for me, or like not being so shy. Like I'm really trying to work on it and confront this head on. But it's just, I really think it's built into me. And I was just talking with my dad about this yesterday, and he said, yeah, you've always been a nice guy, like really nice guy. Again, sometimes to my own detriment. And, I kind of acknowledged that maybe, that's just the way that I'm wired. And there's probably some truth to that. But again, I realize that I cannot be like that all the time. And, there's kind of not too much to say about it, but it is something that I'm working on. I'm trying not to be so concerned with the people-pleasing part, like trying to accommodate to everybody, trying to make sure that I'm in good graces with everybody. I still do it, right? But I'm just trying to acknowledge it a little bit more. But then again, here's it's just so interesting to me and conflicting at the same time. Like, it's just one of many dilemmas that I experience, where it's like, well, what's the wrong with being a little bit too nice? And I already gave my reasons why, right? Because sometimes you need to be assertive, sometimes you really need to put the foot down. But isn't it crazy to say that like being too nice can be problematic, right? Like at this time, you would imagine that the world needs more positivity. The world needs more nice people, right? Which I'm sure is true. But then again, can't be too nice. Can't be too much of a people pleaser. And so that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. So if anybody has advice, if you made it this far and anybody has advice for how not to be too nice or how to be a little bit more assertive, holla at me. Let me know. But I think I'll wrap up with this. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to end it on a more just a positive note and acknowledging things that I'm very grateful for. Like I had a phone call with a friend over the weekend that was really nice. Got to catch up. A couple friends that I'm close to, I've been just texting here and there over the past a couple weeks. We'll just have we'll talk about basketball, we'll catch up on certain things, which is really nice. And they reached out first, which I always appreciate, people that reach out first. I got to see some friends this past weekend, some high school friends. We got to grab dinner and play pool, watch basketball. So it was a great time just to hang and catch up. I got to play, a decent amount of basketball. And one thing that I'm always grateful for, there's so many things I'm grateful for about playing basketball, but one, competing, being around my friends, but then also leaving the court without an injury. I think for most people that have done sports before probably have experienced some kind of injury. And for me, I'm just very grateful that I can, every time I leave the court, that I'm still okay, right? I haven't suffered a significant injury that will sideline me. So, grateful to have made it through. And little things like being able to just chat with my mom for a quick couple minutes or however long, being able to see my siblings, interact with them for however long, see my friends, to have a house, to have, again, running water. I got a new video game recently, 2 new video games actually, Elden Ring and FIFA 23, which are nice. Elden Ring is cool if you're familiar with that and have any ideas, or anything you want to talk about, holla at me. And a whole bunch of other stuff too, right? Of many things. I'm just trying to stay as grateful as possible, despite all the reasons to be moody, to be cynical, to be angry. I think that's the flip side of it, is like, it's hard, right? But I am trying to do my best to stay even keeled and remember the things that you're grateful for. That no matter how weird or, frustrating situations might be, there are things that you can look to. And just staying true to those principles, essentially. And do I have anything else? The Heat made it to the finals. They're going to play the Nuggets. I think the first game is on Thursday. That'll be fun. Shout out to Jimmy Butler and the squad. Very inspiring. And for me, I'm just going to keep it pushing, do my best to keep the consistency on this, to give you, whatever it feels right at the time. Like, there's no agenda on this. There's no, I got to talk about this, I got to say this. For the past couple weeks, it really has been like the things that have been on my mind recently. I do have some topics that I hope to get into in the near future. But we'll get to that when the time comes, when it feels right. And the last thing I'll say real quick, I know I probably said that multiple times now, but on the basketball front, that's exciting because doing the league, I know I'm not playing for anything, but those 5-game experiences, it really did inspire me to clean up a lot of stuff in my game and just add to it, right? Like, one thing that I don't do so much in the past couple of years, I don't really look for my shot, like my 3-point shot, right? Usually I'm trying to look for other guys and trying to create for other guys, or I'm cutting to the basket to get the ball off the catch, or I can make a dribble move and get to the basket. But in this league, it's a lot of big dudes in there, and so I kind of have to expand my game to the 3-pointer, which is my new challenge. I think that's what I wanted to bring up earlier, is like, I have this tattoo on my left forearm. It says Deyamon Genmon. It's a Haitian proverb. I believe the language is in French, but essentially means behind the mountains are more mountains. And for me, this is my new challenge. Like, I'm always looking, right? I anticipate that their life is always going to give you new things. And so for me, my new challenge within the basketball context is to be a knockdown shooter, essentially, off the dribble, off the catch, and to just shoot it with confidence, right? No hesitation. Look for them, right? Because really, for the most part, in my recent history, like the past year, 2 years, let's say, like, I haven't really looked for the 3-pointer because I can score in other ways. But now I'm trying to add that back into my game so I can really be like a multi-level scorer. And just try to dice people up that way. So that's my next challenge. I look forward to it. I probably got a couple weeks before this next league starts. But again, it sounds like my group, we want to run it back, which is exciting because, we got some work to do. We got some, we just trying to get after it, really. I think a lot of us are motivated. A lot of us are competitors. So we're going to run it back, see what we can do, see what happens. And we'll leave it at that. If you made it this far, once again, I appreciate you. This is number 25, which is crazy. Quarter of the way there to 100, 25%. A long way to go. But also, just want to acknowledge and be grateful for making it this far. So if you made it, if you listened to this, I appreciate you. Thank you. I hope you're doing well. I hope, if not, I hope you have the strength. I hope you have the knowledge and the support to get through it, to persevere, and to keep it pushing. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and hope to see you in the next one.